What do you do when a cop shines a flashlight into your car and starts staring at your seat, your floorboard, and your hands? That light is not the real danger. Your next 10 seconds are what can turn a simple stop into a full search. Before I reveal the exact words, hit subscribe right now so you can find this video again when you actually need it on the side of the road. And tap like too, because what you're about to hear could keep your mouth from handing over your rights. Here's what you need to know fast. A flashlight inside your car is usually legal. The officer does not need a warrant just to look through your windows with a light. That means your best protection is not arguing about the flashlight. Your best protection is controlling your hands, your words, and the length of the stop. Let me show you exactly what matters most. You're about to learn the first sentence that keeps normal movements from looking suspicious, the one line that blocks consent searches, and the question that can stop the officer from stretching the stop longer than the law allows. You're also going to hear the court cases behind this in plain English, not lawyer talk. I'm going to walk you through what most drivers do wrong, why that mistake snowballs fast, and how smart drivers shut that down without yelling, without acting tough, and without making things worse. If you ever drive at night, if you have kids in the car, or if you just freeze up under pressure, this matters to you way more than you think. Now let's talk about why this moment gets so dangerous so fast. When that flashlight hits your car, the officer is looking for two things. First, anything in plain sight that looks illegal. Second, any movement from you that can be called suspicious. That means if you start digging in your console, or reaching under your seat, leaning hard to one side, or blurting out extra info, you can give them the story they need to dig deeper. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the same pattern shows up again and again. Drivers think they're helping, but they're really building the officer's suspicion. Here's the reality. Most searches do not start with some huge crime. They start with small mistakes. A nervous reach, a nervous joke, a nervous yes. Most people have no idea how fast a warning stop becomes a drug stop, a gun stop, or a handcuff stop. And once the officer says they saw you making a furtive movement, that just means a sudden movement that looked like hiding or grabbing something. Now you are playing defense. So your job is simple. Make your movements clean. Make your words short. Make the officer work with facts, not your panic. The first thing you do is make your hands boring. The second that flashlight comes into your car, put your hands where they can be seen and stop moving. If your dome light is on, fine. If it's dark, that's fine too. What matters is that your hands look calm and empty. Then you narrate any move before you make it. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, my hands are on the wheel. My license is in my wallet. May I reach for it? Word for word. Memorize that line. Why does that work so well? Because you are cutting off the officer's favorite shortcut. If they can say you made a quick, weird movement, they may use that to justify pulling you out, patting you down, or escalating the stop. But when you say where your hands are, where your wallet is, and you ask before moving, you take away the mystery. You make the whole thing boring. And boring is your friend during a stop. Bad way. Most drivers say, hold on, it's right here somewhere. Then start digging around. Then the officer says, your movement looks suspicious, and the whole stop gets more tense. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, my hands are on the wheel. My wallet is in my back pocket. May I reach for it? Then the movement is slow, clear, and much harder to twist into suspicion. Watch what happens when you do this right. The officer may still be alert, but now your behavior matches a safe, normal driver, not someone hiding something. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it removes uncertainty. You're not refusing a lawful request. You are showing control. You are showing respect. And you are protecting yourself at the same time. This also lines up with a real Supreme Court case called Texas versus Brown. In simple English, that case says an officer can shine a flashlight into your car and look inside from a place they are allowed to stand. So arguing you can't look in here is usually a losing move. The light itself is not the issue. The issue is what the officer sees after that light goes in. If the light catches open alcohol, drugs, a gun where it should not be, or panicked movement under your seat, that can open the door to more action. So don't fight the flashlight. Control what the flashlight sees. Here's the reality. Your calm is not just about being polite. Your calm is evidence. It tells the officer there is no sudden threat, no hidden grab, no weird reach. And if you ever need a lawyer later, clean behavior helps your side way more than nervous movement ever will. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings about what officers can legally observe during traffic stops. Your goal is not to win an argument on the roadside. Your goal is to give them nothing extra. Now comes the line that saves more people than almost anything else. If the officer starts fishing with questions like, you mind if I take a look? Or you got anything illegal in the car? Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. That is the line. Not maybe, not why, not what for. Just that one sentence. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A lot of drivers think if they are innocent, they should just say yes and get it over with. That is a trap. If you consent, you hand over one of your strongest protections. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it keeps the record clean. It tells the officer, the camera, and later the judge that you did not give permission. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to refuse consent, and you should do it calmly every single time. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Yeah, go ahead, I've got nothing to hide." Then the officer searches bags, containers, and all kinds of places you never meant to approve. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to rely on some legal reason other than your permission. That matters because of a case called Florida versus Humano. Let me say that in plain English. The court said if you give general consent to search your car, that consent can reach containers inside the car if a reasonable person would think the item being searched for could fit there. So if you say yes, you may not just be giving permission for a quick peek. You may be opening up your backpack, your paper bag, your gym bag, or anything else inside. You do not want to hand over that kind of freedom with one nervous sentence. And notice something important here. You are not fighting. You are not refusing to identify yourself. You are not grabbing the phone and screaming rights. You are simply refusing permission. That keeps you on solid ground. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because consent is one of the easiest ways officers get around the warrant issue. If you remove consent, now the officer needs something more than your fear. Also, do not try to get cute with jokes. Do not say, "Only if I can search yours." Do not say, "Depends what you're looking for." Do not say, "I guess so." Those half answers create room for trouble. You want one clean sentence that leaves nothing to argue about later. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then stop talking. If the officer searches anyway, your job is not to physically stop them. Your job is to make sure the camera and the report cannot honestly say you agreed. Still watching? Good. Drop a like if this is already changing how you'd handle a real stop. And tell me in the comments if you've ever been asked for consent during a traffic stop, because that question catches a lot of people off guard. Now let's get to the line that can stop the officer from turning a short traffic stop into a fishing trip. Listen closely, because this is critical. Once the officer has handled the reason for the stop, checked your documents, and done the normal ticket or warning work, the stop is supposed to end unless they have a real legal reason to keep you there. That means you need to know when to ask the most important question in the whole stop. You look at the officer and say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. If the officer says you are free to leave, leave. Do not stay to chat. Do not stay to explain. Do not stay because you feel awkward. You can also follow up with, "I would like to leave if I'm free to go." Let me show you exactly why that matters. A lot of drivers think they have to wait around forever because the officer seems busy, or because another unit is coming, or because a dog might be on the way. That is not always true. This is 100% legal. You can ask if you are free to go. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, I can wait," or they just stand there quietly while the stop drags on. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to either let them go or clearly claim a legal reason to keep them. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, especially Rodriguez versus United States. In plain English, that case says police cannot stretch a traffic stop longer than needed just to investigate something unrelated, like waiting for a drug dog, unless they have separate reasonable suspicion. That means the stop has a mission. License, registration, insurance, warrants, ticket or warning. Done. No bonus round just because the officer feels curious. Watch what happens when you ask that question at the right time. Suddenly, the stop gets real clear. Either you're still lawfully detained for the original stop, or the officer has to explain why you are not free to go. That matters because long, vague roadside conversations are where people talk themselves into trouble. You admit something old, you agree to something dumb, you let your nerves fill the silence. Asking if you are free to leave cuts through that fog. Now, very important, do not ask that question too early. Timing matters. If they have not even seen your license yet, you are obviously still detained for the stop. But after the normal business is wrapping up, after the warning is given or the ticket is done, that's when the question hits hard. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection against those long roadside fishing trips. And yes, if the officer lawfully orders you out of the car, you comply. The Supreme Court has said officers can do that during a lawful stop. You can comply with the order and still refuse consent and still ask if you are free to leave later. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. Stay with me, because this is the part that ties everything together. Let's lock in the legal side, in plain English so you never forget it. Texas versus Brown says an officer can use a flashlight to look into your car. So your move is not arguing about the light. Your move is making sure your hands, your movements, and anything in plain sight stay boring and lawful. Florida versus Humano is the consent case. If you say yes to a search, that yes can reach containers inside the car too. Rodriguez vice. United States is the time limit case. An officer cannot drag out a traffic stop longer than needed for the traffic business. Now let me walk you through a real-world scene. You get pulled over for a broken taillight. The officer walks up and shines a flashlight. The wrong move. You start digging for your wallet before saying anything. You say, "Yeah, go ahead. I've got nothing to hide." Now watch the right way. The light hits your car. You put your hands where they can be seen. You narrate your moves. The officer asks to search. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Calm voice, no attitude. The officer hangs there asking more questions. You ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That version blocks the suspicious movement story, blocks consent, and blocks endless delay unless the officer has something real. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed from your car. Subscribe right now so you don't miss it. So remember, narrate every movement, use the exact line, "I do not consent," and ask, "Am I free to leave?" Hit subscribe so you catch that next video on smell-based car searches. Smash like if this script just changed how you'll handle your next stop. And drop a comment telling me which exact line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.